Hey there, and welcome back to By His Grace Marriage Ministry Podcast. My name is Amanda, and today's episode is an unexpected one. I wasn't planning on doing this episode. I was gonna take a break for a few days, and my next episode was actually gonna be talking about the negative impact that feminism has had on the family unit. But I actually got an email this morning, and this one hit home for me because I have experienced what this person was asking me. And so I thought I'd come on and share it as well within the ministry and on the podcast for those who are also going through this, because I have a feeling that there's a lot of us that are experiencing this right now, or maybe you have. So, of course, I responded to this person one-on-one, but I wanted to go ahead and share for those of you who are maybe dealing with the same thing right now. So I want to talk about divine separation and what that means. So I'm going to kind of go in depth a little bit. Some of this might be completely new to you. Maybe you've never heard of this. This is how it was shown to me by the Holy Spirit, and something that I experienced as well in my own journey. So I'm going to share those experiences, what I've learned, what I've been shown, what I've been taught, and I'm going to share that with all of you. Now, before I go into the word, let me start off by saying that this is only for those who have been called by Elohim to a godly marriage, and the marriage is ordained or orchestrated by Him. Okay, this isn't if you're in a counterfeit relationship, or if you have gone off and chosen yourself and you are within the world. Okay, this does not apply to that. I'm sure by now many of you have come to the understanding that this ministry is about godly marriages. Marriage is orchestrated by Elohim for His plan, for His will, for His purpose, and ultimately for His glory. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that first and foremost before I jump into this word. Okay, divine separation. What is divine separation? And is it a good thing or a bad thing? Is it an attack from the enemy, or is it something that Elohim does in order to fix things or make things better? Or, you know, I've had a lot of these questions, and when I received this email this morning, this person's story was very similar to mine, and so that's why it hit pretty close to home for me. So I want to go ahead and explain, and I want to start off by saying that this really depends on what situation you're going through with your spouse. Okay, so there can actually be different circumstances. So divine separation can actually take place after you have met your spouse. Okay, so maybe Elohim crossed your paths, the two of you met, and then within a short period of time, you guys separated. Okay, now in that short period of time, you could have been courting, or maybe you were just around one another, and Elohim gave you the revelation and the confirmation that this is your spouse, but then things went the opposite, and now you're no longer around each other. Okay, that can be one example of divine separation, where it's been revealed and confirmed to either one or both of you, but a separation has taken place. So say, for example, if the two of you met at a job, maybe now one of you is no longer at that job, or you both have gone your separate ways and you're not in contact with one another. But Elohim has revealed and confirmed to you that this is your spouse. Or it could be that the two of you were friends and you guys talked and got to the point where you realized that Elohim was revealing and showing the both of you that this was of Him, but then something happened and then you separated. Another situation could be that you were already in your marriage and there's been a separation. Maybe there's been a misunderstanding, or there has been a really bad argument or fight that's taken place and you have separated. There's been no reconciliation. So maybe one of you have stayed at the home and the other one has gone somewhere else. Another situation is there is a third party. Okay, now this is something I have not yet talked about. I have mentioned counterfeit relationships. And basically what a third party is if one of the spouses, one of the God-ordained spouses, is still attached to a counterfeit person. Okay, and the way that this happens is it could be a couple of different circumstances. It could be they are attached because they've had children with this person. Therefore, that counterfeit is still in their life because they are now co-parenting, right, for these children. Or maybe this counterfeit person is toxic and is not wanting to let the God-ordained spouse go. Okay, that could be one of the reasons why there's a third party. Okay, as a matter of fact, it's actually really one of the main reasons why there's a third party. It always usually has to do with a counterfeit situation. So for example, if Elohim has brought the two of you together, you guys have met, you've crossed paths, he has revealed to the both of you and confirmed that this is his will, that you two come in a union, but one of you or both of you, usually it's not both, it's usually one, but one or both of you have either just come out of a counterfeit relationship or you're still dealing with that. Okay, and I'm going to go into more detail about stuff like that in a completely different episode. I don't know whenever the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, leads me to do that, because this is something that I myself went through. So I have a lot to say about that. But this is usually what a third party means. Okay, there's a counterfeit that's still in the picture. Now, some of you might think, well, if we come into our godly marriages with children, we're gonna have, we're gonna have other people involved because we're co-parenting. Yes, but the difference is whether or not that's a toxic thing or a healthy thing. So, and what I mean by that is that, say you're the one that has the children, okay, and the parent, the mother or the father of your children, you guys are on the same page. You have a neutral understanding. You both have moved on. You know that what you had was not of Elohim. You've moved on, and you both have agreed that you're going to be neutral and understanding and kind and all that for the sake of the children, okay? And that's it. There should be nothing more to that, okay? There are other cases where the parent to those children, the other parent, is nowhere in the picture. So you're really just solo, you're doing it by yourself, you're a single parent. But there are cases, and this is the sad part because this is what's truly going on in a lot of these scenarios, is that the other parent is toxic to the point that they don't want to see the other person move on. They give them a hard time. Maybe they manipulate them. Maybe they blackmail them. Maybe they use the children as pawns by saying, if you don't do things my way, or if you go into this relationship, you're not going to see your children, or it's all about money. You understand what I'm saying? Like, this is a whole other level. And yes, there are people that are going through this right now. And basically what that is the enemy fighting against your Yah-ordained marriage through this person, through this counterfeit, okay? Because if you, and I'm mainly talking to men, if you as the father are doing everything you're supposed to do, you're working, you're providing for those children, and you've made it clear to this person that you no longer want anything to do in this relationship, you now have an understanding this is not the will of Elohim for your life. You want to move forward with your life, but you will always be responsible for the children. You're doing what you have to do. And because you've turned to Elohim and you've aligned yourself with him, and you now want his will for your life, Elohim's going to make sure he accommodates that situation concerning your children, okay? But the other issue is that especially if there's doors open through sin, the enemy will use that other person to counterfeit, which is how he used this person to begin with to cause you to fall into that relationship and have a life with this person, okay? So the enemy is going to fight back by using the same person to attack you even further and really in a way make your life miserable, right? Because now they're trying to stop you from moving forward, and they're using your children, the child or the children, to do so, okay? There are a lot of people that are dealing with this right now, okay? So for some of you who have complained that the other parent is not in the child's life, or you know what, be thankful for that. Be thankful for that, because less you have to deal with. Yes, it impacts your children negatively, but again, Elohim will accommodate all of that as you continue to walk with him, okay? So that's what I mean by a third party, okay? It's usually the counterfeit person that one of you was involved with, either before or during the time of Elohim bringing the two of you together. Now, I've had a couple of people ask me, will Elohim actually bring two together while they're in a counterfeit relationship? He won't bring them together, but he will reveal one to the other so that they're aware that this is their spouse and not the counterfeit, okay? That's why there's such a thing as a divine separation. So concerning divine separation, so you've met and now the two of you have gone your separate ways, okay? Or you're in your marriage and you've separated. The two of you have separated for a time because of issues. So I'm going to first address when you've met and then you separate, and then I will address if you're married and you're separated, okay? So if you have met and Elohim has confirmed and revealed and confirmed to you that this is your spouse, and then either the two of you were friends and you were getting to that point, or maybe you were courting, you already knew that you were coming together, marriage union, but then all of a sudden things went south and then you both went your separate ways. Again, the reason why that could be is there's a third party involved, okay? Which means that Elohim needs to work out that situation concerning your spouse, okay? So say it's not you, but it's your spouse that has a counterfeit attached to them, okay? And again, it could be because of children or money or whatever that it may be, or maybe they've just divorced, okay? There needs to be time where Elohim can intervene and work on that. And that's where your prayers also come in. And oftentimes there's situations where that is why Elohim has crossed your paths with your spouse, even though you're not coming together yet. And that is so that you can pray for them because they're stuck in that bondage, okay? So that could be definitely one of the main reasons why there needs to be a divine separation, where now you know who your spouse is, but you haven't been able to come together yet, you know, because of situations such as a third party, okay? The other reason could be that either Elohim needs to work on either one or both of you spiritually, okay? Maybe there are some adjustments that need to be made. Maybe it's your outlook. Maybe it's you don't even know what your purpose is yet. Maybe you still need to grow. You need to become more spiritually mature. You know, there's just some kinks that he needs to work out within the both of you or one of you before he brings the two of you together in union. Because remember, as I've said in previous episodes, if you step into your union ahead of his timing, you step in without having had certain things worked out or worked on, you can jeopardize your marriage, okay? So for example, say if you or your spouse, you know, maybe you have been distant, maybe you've been distant from God. He's going to want to work on either you or your spouse to bring you closer to him. Maybe you need to grow more in your faith. Maybe you don't know your identity within the Messiah, or maybe you have no idea what your purpose is, okay? So there might be some things that still need to be worked out with either one or both of you before he can bring you in. But again, maybe you've met so that you can pray for one another. Because oftentimes when we don't see what's going on, we don't always really focus our prayer on things we don't see. So sometimes Elohim might have to show you what he has in store for you or what's ahead so that you can really start praying for those things or for those people, okay? So that could be another reason. Again, the biggest one really is if there is a third party, okay? If there is a third party or one or both of you are just not ready yet spiritually, or there's just some things that need to be, I can't remember which episode it was where I talked about that there are some things that when you come together in your marriage union, the both of you will be able to help one another, right? You kind of help fill in those gaps where one is strong, where one is weak, your spouse will be stronger in, and vice versa, right? But then there are some things that have to be taken care of, that have to be worked on before coming into your union, because if not, it can actually jeopardize your union, okay? Now, especially if there is a third party, if there is a situation where your spouse or yourself is just getting out of a relationship, okay, a counterfeit relationship, or even a divorce, okay? And especially if there's children involved, okay? I don't want you to think that this is not the person for you that Elohim has for you, or that it's never going to happen, it looks impossible. That is what the enemy wants you to believe, okay? And I've already gone over so many reasons of why not to think that, okay? Because nothing is impossible for Elohim. Remember, there is a lot that Elohim has to undo that we ourselves have done, right? Like the things that we've put ourselves in. There's a lot that he has to undo before he can bring us into what he's called for us, okay? So don't look at it like it's impossible, okay? Or that you heard him wrong. No, if he has revealed and confirmed to you that's your spouse, that's your spouse, okay? You just have to give him time to work stuff out. In the meantime, focus on your relationship with him and be in a lot of prayer for yourself, right? To prepare for this union, and pray for your spouse, especially if they are stuck in that stronghold or bondage of a counterfeit relationship, okay? Because if that counterfeit person that they were involved in is toxic and they're manipulative, they like to blackmail, they like to play games, they like to do all these wicked things, okay? Be praying for your spouse to be delivered and free from that, okay? Because that is a stronghold that the enemy has put on that spouse in order to keep them bound. And the reason why the enemy is able to do that to that spouse is because that spouse opened the door to the enemy when he fell for the counterfeit. Okay? I want to make that clear. That's how that happens. That's why I say getting involved with a counterfeit is one of the worst things you can do, and it's one of the biggest ways the enemy will try to cause you to stumble and fall away from Elohim. I did an episode a while back called The Dangers of a Counterfeit Relationship, and it was specifically for men. It was specifically for men because this is what I see all the time concerning men. This is how the enemy is able to really cause men, godly men that have purposes, okay? These are men that Elohim has called from the time that they were in their mother's womb to do something big for him, a big purpose, a big anointing. And this is how, this is one of the ways that the enemy will attack men, okay? Is by causing them to fall into a counterfeit relationship or a marriage and then have children with this person, or have children by different women. This is one of the biggest ways that the enemy will entrap men. So that's why I'm really speaking to men tonight about this, and why my other episode, The Dangers of a Counterfeit Relationship, was geared towards men, because this is what I see all the time. I see so many men stuck. They're stuck financially, they're stuck because of the children. And again, I'm not saying children in a negative way. I love children, and children are a blessing from Elohim no matter what the circumstance, okay? So I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it's usually either financial issues, children, right? Or maybe there's even a spirit of lust to where that man keeps breaking free from that counterfeit woman, but then he keeps going back because she keeps enticing him, okay? And he keeps falling into that sin. Okay, that's a bondage. That's a form of bondage. Okay. Maybe they're not together, but they're still fornicating together. Okay, that's another huge one. So I'm just calling it like I see it. This is what I see often, and this is what I hear often. So that's a big thing. And here's the thing, even though that is your spouse that Elohim has called for you to be with, he's not going to bring you into that union if your spouse is still doing those things or still has those things stuck. He has to be free first. He needs to be delivered from that before Elohim can bring the two of you into your union together. Okay, so that can be a really big reason of why there's a divine separation. Now, a divine separation can be however long it needs to be. And I know this is something not everybody wants to hear. Just keep in mind that our timing is not like his. His timing is very different from ours, okay? But sometimes it can take a few years, okay? Sometimes you can be in divine separation for just a few months. It could be a year, it could be 3 years, it could be 6 years. It really just depends on the severity of the situation that either one or both of you are in, okay? Another thing that I want to share that I've had somebody ask me, they said, well, if I know that this is my God-ordained husband and the seal of a marriage union is intimacy, is sex, then is it okay for us to do that anyways, even if one or both of us aren't ready to step into that union yet? And my answer is no, it's not okay. Okay? It's not okay because you're going to cause things that should only happen within your union. You're going to cause for that to actually be a negative effect on the both of you. Okay? Anytime we go ahead of Elohim's timing, it's going to have a negative impact. Anything that's right but done outside of his timing and his way is still wrong. Okay? So if you're in divine separation, but maybe you still communicate with one another, I highly, highly encourage to let there be as little communication as possible until Elohim gives you the green light. And, really just be careful because of course the two of you are going to want to get to that point, right? Because you're going to have that love and you're going to have that attraction, of course. But this is another reason why there's divine separation, because if there are still things that need to be worked out, Elohim knows that the two of you are going to want to come together, okay, in an intimate way. And that is wonderful. That is exactly what is supposed to happen. But when it's not time yet, because either one or both of you still have work that needs to be done or situations that need to be taken care of, that's not a good idea to do that, because it's just going to complicate things further, okay? Yes, it's your God-ordained spouse. Yes, that's what's supposed to take place in your union. But if Elohim has placed the both of you in a divine separation, then that's what it needs to be. You need to be separated. And that means physically as well, okay? Because if not, you're only going to delay the process even further. So I wanted to be clear on that as well. Don't misuse that. Yes, it's your God-ordained spouse. Yes, that's what's going to seal your union, but you're not in your union yet. You're in separation, okay? Now, for those of you who are already married and you're separated because of an argument or a disagreement that you've had, my advice to you is to be in a lot of prayer, okay? Elohim knows the situation. He knows how you both are feeling. And here's the thing. He will speak to the both of you, okay? If there's something that one of you needs to see, maybe the one that is in denial, the spouse that's in denial, or the spouse that's being prideful, Elohim will work on them, okay? But you have to allow the separation to take place so that that can happen. You have to allow there to be time and space in between the two of you so that Elohim can work on whichever spouse or both spouses that are in the wrong, okay? That maybe, again, are being prideful, or they're not, being open to the other spouse. They're not understanding. Be in prayer for your spouse and for you so that Elohim can work on the both of you. And in his perfect timing, and once things are set, you two will reconcile, okay? Elohim will make sure you reconcile, okay? And again, separation is not divorce, okay? Separation is not divorce. So I know a lot of people get scared when they hear separation. Separation is not a good thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing either. Sometimes it might be needed, okay? And as long as during the separation, both spouses remain faithful, okay? They're not going out and trying to find somebody else or something like that, okay? And of course, also this depends on how long the separation actually is. The separation could be a few days. The separation could be a few weeks. It could be a few months. It could be a couple of years, okay? It really depends on the severity. For most, it's usually not that long. Usually you have a falling out and, you separate for a few days, maybe a few weeks, at the most, maybe a few months. And that's really usually as far as it goes. But if there are some things that need to be worked out on one or either spouse, then Elohim needs that time to do that. And rest assured that he will do that. Leave your spouse in Elohim's hands during that separation and trust that he will bring your spouse back to you and the two of you will be reconciled, okay? You will be reconciled, okay? And again, if you are in separation and you're married, please remain faithful to your spouse. Please, please, please don't do that kind of injustice to your marriage and to your spouse. And it's a sin in Elohim's eyes. And in a way that it would grieve your spouse, it would grieve him as well. Because again, remember, this is a marriage that he brought together. Okay? And that's why Elohim does not like divorce. And that's why it grieves him so much to see something that he has put together be torn apart. But again, separation doesn't have to mean that. Sometimes separation can be a beneficial thing, okay? And the two of you will be reconciled again, okay? If you allow Elohim to work within that so that there can be reconciliation. If you try to do it in your own strength, in your own timing, in your own ways, you can really, really mess it up. And that's often how it works. If we try to do things in our own way, our own flesh, our own strength, our own timing, we mess it up when we go ahead of Elohim and do it ourselves. Let Elohim handle it and take care of it. Remember, he put your marriage together. He called the two of you together. He loves you both, then you love yourselves and one another. He will be sure to reconcile the two of you back together. But again, maybe there are some things that need to be worked on with either yourself or your spouse or the both of you. And that's where divine separation comes into play. Okay, so I hope I have been able to explain this well to where it makes sense concerning divine separation. If you have any questions or need advice or prayer, please feel free to email me at byhisgracemarriage@gmail.com. I will be talking more about this topic as well in future episodes. Again, this is something that I myself have walked through, so I have experience in this and his understanding of how all of this works. And it's really not something you can fit into one episode. It's really something that you have to just kind of share over a course of time because there's a lot to it. So I hope that this has helped for now. Again, this was a question that was brought to me via email this morning. And I know that there are a lot of brothers and sisters that are dealing with this right now. So I wanted to share it within the ministry, on the podcast, so that whoever needs to hear it can hear it. So thank you so much for listening, and I will talk with you in my next episode.